asking to come back home. We want to make sure that people who come to New York City know what to expect, and they have the opportunity for safe and dignified migration, one that can lead to the American dream. As I say over and over again, not to an American nightmare. We want every single person who's thinking about risking their lives and their children's lives to come to New York City to know the truth about what we are dealing with. We all want to help as many people as possible. As we have stated in this administration, our hearts are full and endless, but our resources are not. We want to uphold our values as a city of immigrants, but to do that, we need to stabilize this situation. And we need work across international borders to manage it in a way that protects all of us, including established New Yorkers who need services and new arrivals who need support. Right now, we are in danger of not being able to provide that. Today, we saw the reality on the ground, the reality of the lives of the young people and families from Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador who have fled. We cannot just sit back and watch things play out. Ignoring the problem is not going to fix the problem. We need to take actions on issues like economic inequality, climate resiliency, and the asylum seeker situation. Not in the future, but right now. That is why I'm here. We need real solutions to solve these real problems. And it starts here with talking to people who are most deeply affected by it. Those solutions are going to come from all of us working together, just as the people of Ecuador and the US want to do. I am hopeful that it is the start of a real international collaboration on a local level with our mayors, our governors, and our national leaders. I look forward to traveling to Colombia and the Darien Gap tomorrow to talk with more people about the reality of what is happening here and in New York City. Now, I'll take some questions on topic.
All right, and just a reminder for reporters that want to ask a question, please use the raise hand function. First question will go to Marcia Kramer from CBS. Marcia, you can unmute your line.
Can you hear me?
Yes, if you can talk a little louder, Marcia.
I wonder, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Mayor, I'm wondering, I know that you talked about meeting with some of the migrants today and talking to them, and I wonder when you look into their eyes and you see the desire to have the American dream and to flee the poverty, and you remember all the people in New York, including your own family who came from immigrant roots, is it hard for you to tell them that they shouldn't come to New York because it's not, we don't have the facilities? I mean, does it break your heart to tell them that they can't have the same kinds of things that people in your family and the families of the people who work in New York City have had?
What tears my heart apart and what motivated me to come here is that when I look at the circumstances that are facing the migrant and asylum seekers who are in New York and everyday struggling New Yorkers, and it is not our desire to pit the groups against each other as we stabilize this situation. And while here, I see that same determination. All groups that attempt to come to America, they do so because they believe in the American dream. And in order for us not to have that dream turn into a nightmare, we must stabilize the situation that we are seeing. Marsha, we used to get on average during a challenging time, approximately 300 migrants a day. We're now seeing in the areas of 600 to 800 a day. We believe that this month we're going to see record levels because of the surge that's taking place at the border. We are not going to be able to sustain this situation for migrants and asylum seekers and for long-term New Yorkers who are also dealing with real issues around poverty and needs.
Next, we'll go to Polo Sandoval from CNN. Polo, you can unmute your line.
Hello here. How far into the Darien Gap do you expect to travel tomorrow? And also, as you speak face to face with migrants, are you sharing yesterday's announcements from DHS in Washington that deportations for Venezuelans will be happening again back directly to their country? And then finally, just tied to that, do you expect that that fact may ultimately be what resonates with those that may ignore your message that New York is at capacity? Thank you.
Okay, I heard your first part. I just need for you to speak a little slower because of the connection here on your second part. Uh, Give me the second part so I can answer your questions together, okay?
Absolutely, Mayor. Thank you. So, again, how far into the Darien Gap do you expect to travel? And as you speak face to face with some of these migrants, will you be sharing yesterday's announcement from DHS that deportations for Venezuelans will be happening again? And do you think that is really what will ultimately resonate with the people you speak to?
First, with the Darien Gap, we have been extremely sensitive about discussing that trip. This is an extremely dangerous trip that we are doing for a number of reasons, and we want to be extremely careful for intel reasons on our exact location and the time that we will be and where we're going to be. We want to respect the law enforcement entity and those who are in charge of providing our safety. Uh, there's some extreme issues there that we want to respect what our officials are telling us, and so we will be able to come back once returned. We could give a deeper briefing, but at this time we don't want to go into our specific because of the sensitivity of that area. And yes, these are the conversations. Again, it's about being honest and forthright, and we have to push back on the misinformation. And what the federal government is deciding to do, we're going to share it with those who are here once we get a full understanding and briefing. We don't want to add to the misinformation, and our team is vetting and getting a full briefing on what the federal government is going to do around Venezuela. But we wanted to be clear here. We're receiving migrants and asylum seekers from many different countries, not only Venezuela. And just as here in Ecuador and in Mexico, they're receiving migrants and asylum seekers from many different countries as well.
Next, we'll go to Ethan Stark Miller. Ethan, you can unmute your line.
Can you hear me?
Yes, if you could talk a little louder, it would be helpful.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Hi, Mr. Mayor. Hope you're well. So my question is just, the other day you said you were hoping to get on, TV and radio and newspapers while you were on your trip. Can you give us a bit of an idea of like what media hits you've done in the region thus far, if any?
The comms team would share with you the list of all the hits that we've done with a complete list. But we have been communicating with the local press throughout this entire trip. We met with the local press this morning, and just about every stop that we've had men and women from the local media that's here, both print and television, as well as radio. And we're going to continue to do that. We've been met at just about every location with men and women from the local media here in here in this city, Ecuador, as well as in Mexico. When we were at the congressional chambers with the press there, and just about every stop that we attended, we had the local media there, and we were very clear on our talking points of how important it is to push back on this misinformation.
Next, we'll go to Morgan Mackay from Fox 5. Morgan, you can unmute your line.
Yes, just if you could just talk up a little. The reception here is not the best at this time.
Thank you. Mayor, I was just wondering, did you meet with White House officials when you were in Mexico yesterday? And also just trying to get your reaction to the border wall being built out in Texas. Do you feel like this will help maybe stem the flow a little bit? Thank you.
No, we did not meet with the White House delegation that came down uh, a few days ago. We did meet with high-ranking officials in Mexico, and I want to again thank them for their receptivity to sharing their ideas, and we shared ours, dealing specifically with the wall and the proposal that's coming from the national government. There's not going to be a one item solution. There's going to be a series of things that are going to be needed to really stabilize the situation. And for Americans, the stabilization comes with managing the border. And I'm aware that many experts are stating that if you don't have a manageable way of entry, that people take more dangerous pathways. And so I believe the federal government is taking all that into consideration as they're making the decision. We're going to continue to communicate with the federal government to determine what the plans and steps forward are to not only if they officially rolled out the wall, but also what we're doing with the decompression strategy.
Next, we'll go to Bernadette Hogan from New York One. Bernadette, you can unmute your line.
Hear me okay?
Yeah, Bernadette, if you could just talk up a little more.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, once the White House rolls out this plan to deport Venezuelans that are here unlawfully and also have not applied for legal protections, do you plan on assisting them with these deportations and also information sharing?
Okay, I didn't get you completely. Did you hear the question?
She said, do you plan on assisting the federal government with deportation?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Do you plan on assisting the federal government with deportation efforts with Venezuelans?
What we're going to do in New York City is we're going to follow the law, and whatever the law requires us to do in New York City, the uniqueness of our city, we're going to do that. We're going to comply with whatever laws our city has in place. As everyone knows, I don't break laws, I follow laws, and we're going to make sure whatever the law is, that's what we're going to follow.
Next, we'll go to Mike Gartland. Mike, you can unmute your line.
Can't hear you, Michael, if you're talking.
Now?
Yes, I can.
So I want to ask you about the, deportations as a follow-up to Bern's question. If you're following the law on that, does that in some way affect the city's status as a sanctuary city? I mean, can you just kind of get into the weeds more on that? If you're helping with deportations, which the federal government's trying to do, would that in some way impact the city's status as a sanctuary city? And if so, how?
Our city is very clear on what the law is around coordinating with ICE, and those are the laws that this administration is going to comply with. The laws are very clear, and I'm going to adhere to the laws that were in place prior to me getting in office, and I'm not going to do anything to go against those laws.
Next, we'll go to Katie Honan. Katie, you can unmute your line.
Okay. You can hear me?
Yeah, just talk up a little for us. The reception, as I said, is not the best, okay?
All right, I'll yell. My question is, I know you might not have had interactions with asylum seekers yet, and this is, I guess, your second stop, but what is the strategy once you get to wherever you will be on the Darien Gap? Are you going to directly speak to people? Don't come to New York? Do you expect them to just turn around? And secondly, I guess the question is, a lot of asylum seekers who are here, New York might not have been their choice of a final destination. It's just where they ended up. So I guess, what is your strategy? Are you going to encourage people turn around while understanding that a lot of people are fleeing pretty dangerous situations and they might not, care what the mayor of New York City and his team has to say about New York because they want to come here anyway and take a shot?
Yeah, and I think your question is a fair question. And what we must understand, as I try to articulate as much as possible, there isn't one item that's going to start to slow down the pace. There's not one item. Mayor Adams showing up at the Darien Gap is not going to change the minds of everyone that's coming through. Mayor Adams speaking on local press is not going to change every mind. There isn't one magic pill that's going to solve this crisis, and we need to be clear on that. And if we sit back and wait for the one magic pill, then we are going to watch this issue erode. I use the scenario over and over again. There are many rivers that are feeding this crisis. We have to dam each one. And I'm down here learning how to dam another river. And the federal government must do its role, the state government, the city. We all have to dam all of these rivers. If one sit back and state, well, if we dam one river, it's not going to stop the flow, that is a failing attitude, and I don't have that attitude. I'm not going to sit back and watch what's happening in our city. And by going to the Darien Gap, it's going to further educate me on the fullness of this problem by going to the source of the problems and having a clear understanding of it, that I can come back and inform my team of my observation with the delegation that I traveled with, so we can add that into what we need to do, such as how do we better communicate at the Darien Gap? What do we give information there before they start that journey? What's motivating people? I'm going to speak directly to asylum seekers and migrants and learn from them at ground zero where this issue is playing out every day.
We have spoken to asylum seekers.
Go ahead.
And just to be clear, we have been speaking with asylum seekers and those who support asylum seekers and those who chose to come to Ecuador, for instance, and stay here and find life here, as opposed to going up north and through the Darien Gap, which may cost their lives.
We have time for one more. We'll go to Melissa Russo. Melissa, you can unmute your line.
Yeah, just a little louder, Melissa.
Okay, thank you. I'll try. Following up on Morgan's question, just to make sure we understand your response, are you saying that you're concerned about the Biden administration building out more border wall, or that you support the Biden administration building more border wall as part of an overall strategy, or is it both?
And use the right term, overall strategy. The White House and congressional leaders, our national leaders, they must define the overall strategy. And if the wall is factored into their strategy that is going to slow and stabilize the situation, then I respect their strategy. I have to have our strategy for the city of New York to deal with who's here, and I have to have a strategy to assist in stabilizing the situation. That's why I'm visiting these three countries. And so this national policy is determined by our national leaders, and if they factored in that the wall is going to assist in stabilizing the situation that we're facing right now, then I'll respect their decision because they're making that high-level decision. But I do know from experts that people find dangerous ways, and we need to factor that into our determinations.
All right, that's all the time we have. Thank you all, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining.